I will request Shahid Chishti to recite a few verses from the Quran. Shahid.
Jazak al khair. Thank you, Khalid. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد صدق الله العظيم. Jazakallah khair. Let's go over a couple of housekeeping issues, instructions and how we will be following today. So firstly, as you can see, we will be unmuting all the participants. And so you will be having an opportunity to ask your questions and provide your feedback in the chat box. The chat box will be monitored by Khalid, Nasim, and Kashan. So feel free to provide your feedback and if you have any questions thereupon. And we would definitely look forward for your feedback. Other than that, you can always, if you can always use the Zoom feature to ask a question directly to any other participants or any of the board members. So on behalf of NEDic board, I will again welcome you, and then over to you, Khalid, Nazim. Sorry, it actually has to go back to Nazli for President's note.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Shahid. Actually, वो क्या कहते हैं वो नहीं हो पा रहा, YouTube लाइव नहीं हो पा रहा, लेकिन मैंने रिकॉर्डिंग ऑन कर दी है. I don't know why वो कनेक्ट नहीं हो रहा.
Okay, it's okay.
So
and just give me a quick second. I have need to just mute everyone, and you'll have to unmute yourself when you are speaking. The host.
Okay.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm sure you guys can hear me. Shahid, can you confirm?
Yes,
okay,
that is correct.
Thank you. Let me just see how many participants. Okay. Before we begin, I would like to thank all of you, especially to those who logged in from outside GTA, especially from the people from Calgary, or I'm sure there must be some from US and Pakistan. If they are not here, maybe they join later, because we have a good registration today, almost 117 people. Maybe somebody registered after I checked last night. I just want to thank our professional development committee because they are putting so much effort in arranging all these webinars and other technical programs. Just want to ask all NEDic member, I'm always requesting this, but again, asking if you guys need any kind of professional help, we are here to help you. If you are looking for a certain specific topic for next webinar, please let us know. We have a good lineup for different topics. As most of you know, we had a survey a couple of months ago, and we got the feedback from membership, and we know that what is the most demanding topics. One of them was this one, leadership skills. But believe us, we organized this event before the results of that survey, so we are on right track. Without further ado, I would like Mr. Sharif, our Sharif Bhai, most of you know him, to introduce our speaker. Sharif Bhai is the one who recommended Nasim Saab's name for this webinar. And over to you, Sharif Bhai.
Thank you, Nazli. Welcome all NEDians, those who are attending this seminar. The description of Nasim's experience is already mentioned on the leaflet which was sent to you, but I'll tell you a few more things which are not really mentioned there. Nasim is a 2 times president of an NED Alumni Association Alberta. And I have very close relations with him, and he is, I always say that we have to pick up the jewels among the NEDians, those who can come forward and share their experiences and give some presentations. So Nasim is one of them, and I'm really proud of this gentleman. He is much junior to me, but believe me, when I was in Calgary for 10 years, we used to have sittings with him, and I have learned a lot from him, especially from the oil and gas industry. He is an outstanding NEDian, and he has conducted many seminars in Calgary, and he among those, the best ones were for the P-Inch and for the PMI also, and he has really helped the NEDians a lot there in that organization. And believe me that that this association in Alberta is the leading for the professional development of the people. And Nasim can shed light on this a little bit more on this. And he has done a lot of work there, and he's I would say an outstanding NEDian. And I always try to pick up NEDians to come forward and give these seminars. And most of the seminars done in Calgary were by the NEDians. So I would now ask Nasim to please start the seminar. Thank you very much.
That's our target too, Sharif Bhai. We are looking for more NEDians to come forward and be a part of our PDC or present webinars. Go
Thank
ahead,
you.
Nasim.
Thank you, Sharif Saab. Thank you, Nazli, and thank you all the participants. A few words, then I will start. It's an honor, and I will say I'm very humbled with it that I'm presenting to Almana Matters. Okay. This is a privilege for all of us who has graduated from our mother institutions. Okay. We owe a lot, and it's our duty to giving back to the community back on what we have learned. In terms of some of the aspect here, I have been opportunity to work with the ex-CEO Randy Karen, who was my mentor, my colleagues, NEDAP, I will say EC members, including Fayaz, Saeed Haider Ishqtari, my friend, very close friend, Nadim Alam, and all NEDAP, I will say alumni EC members. So anything that I'm presenting here is it's a learning, mutual learning. I don't personally take that ownership that, okay, it's coming from only myself, rather than it's been shaped throughout the life that we have learned. Hopefully, this will be an interactive session. And the intent is to, if you have come with the idea that you're going to learn today, I will say, put your hat and throw it out. Reason is I'm not here to learn. I'm here to have fun. Because if we impose self-forward learning, we'll not be able to learn or not even have a fun. If you have a fun, ultimately the byproduct will be learning. So enjoy, have a fun, and I will say buckle up for a roller coaster. The second aspect that I would like to do here is there will be some feedback because it's very hard to do interactive session on Zoom. So there will be some events created to ensure that feedback is received and we learn throughout the session. So with this, I will start. Today's agenda is we'll start with the defining leadership. We'll go through the leadership theories, belief, myth. Ultimately, we try to learn the leadership components, which is traits, attributes, and a skill, what those mean. These are the ABC alphabets of leadership. Once we understand the alphabet of leadership, we'll try to make words and sense out of it, which is competency, style, and responsibility. With this, then we have enough background behind ourselves, which will create a very strong foundation for the theory, the historical background of the processes, and the alphabet and the sentence to form it. With this, then we'll go towards the leadership journey and roadmap, means as an individual, how we journey our leadership. Remember, the leadership is a unique journey. It's individual journey. Okay. You need to ensure the recipe is yours, the spices are yours to make the meal that you have to make for yourself. Okay. Ultimately, from there, will go towards the good versus great leadership. As we always say for NEDian, good is not good enough. Our benchmark is the best. Okay. Same thing. There are tools or takeaway from this leadership workshop that you will be getting it. One is a leadership brand and manifesto, which is your own persona, how to carry yourself as a leader, how to have your anchor point. We call it leadership moral compass. And from that, we'll go a little bit understanding of how to make a leadership plan, including the conscious, subconscious, and super conscious affirmative actions. And ultimately, we'll look on the what leader does, where they are engaged more, which is called leadership problem solving. What are those problems? How those are categorized? What are the strategy for those solutions? So that will be a full pack agenda for next 75 to 80 minutes. Yeah. With this, if there's no questions, I will take probably a second on a chat box, look on it, that if you have any question on the agenda, I will take it to address it before we embark our journey. Okay, so first question that I have is, are you able to share the presentation? Okay, this is a presentation will be recorded and ultimately it will be shared later. That's my understanding. Okay, Khalid or Kashan or Shahid, any one of you confirm?
I can confirm, yes, we are already recording this session and we will post it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so now we're going to move towards our next slide. For us in this webinar, okay, to get a feedback, and as I said, we will be sub interactive feedbacks. So I'm proposing that we need to make ourselves into two groups. Anybody who has last name is starting A through M, I will call it group 1. Anyone that has a last name starting N through Z, I will call it last name. Okay, starting through N through Z, I will call it group 2. Group 0 by default will call it all of the members. Yeah. So whenever I'm asking feedback from group 0, then I'm asking from everybody. When I'm asking from group 1, then I'm asking people who has last name from A to M. And subsequently, when I'm asking feedback for group 2, then I'm asking people who has last name from N to Z. Okay. Defining leadership. So my first question here is for the group 1. Okay. Do your best effort on the chat box and tell how you see the leadership and how you do a definition of leadership, which is your most wanted, most desirable leader. Don't take your time to pull a full sentence. Try to do into words. For example, you may think about integrity is one of the traits that you want to see in leader, or respect you want to see in leader. Try to do as minimum words that you have, but try to do your best effort to define it. And you can write down there group 1, Q1, and then just write what's your feedback. Next, this is a red curtain. And while you're going to keep us providing feedback, this red curtain will be there. And as we move down, you will see a slide down during this presentation where we'll open up the red curtain. So this is just to ensure that, okay, I will receive some feedback from you, and then we'll relook on the definition of leadership. Here, this is the theory and belief of leadership. My first question here is, okay, what you see this individual is doing right now? What is his demeanor or style or trait? Where he's engaged? Okay. Is he somebody who is trying to solve problem? Is he in a thinking mode? Is he somebody who is happy? Is he somebody who is courageous? Okay. Try to understand the behavior of individual when he looked toward a certain problems and try to comprehend. Okay. During this webinar, we'll be looking and trying to address the individual style and behavior and try to understand the non-verbal communication of individual through pictures. Okay. So for a moment, just to be on this slide, okay, it looked like to me his hands are bowed down backside. That means he's in growth. He's thinking. Okay. He has focus. His focus is his straight body shows that okay, his eyes are looking towards something. That something means he's trying to absorb it and trying to comprehend. Yeah. So that means when an individual is in thinking mode, that shows is a style. If individual is always in thinking mode, that means he is an analytical personality. We'll go deep down when we go and looking at the leadership style and try to understand, comprehend different quarter of leadership. Leadership theories in brief. In this webinar, I have picked up 8 leadership theories. The intent was to go through those theories to understand how leadership theories are evolved and also understand the chronological or time aspect of leadership, how and when it started, how it's been shaped, where we are now. So first theory, great man theory. Okay, we'll talk about as we go down to the slide. Second theory we'll look is called trait theory. As they say, okay, great man theory, the challenge with the great man theory is it takes 50% of our population out. And that is not a good reflection of a theory to define, to maximize the population's input. Trait theory, it's a reflection where we talk about, yes, good, great man has a charisma and they have some traits that make them leader. But what are those traits? So rather than talking about great man, we'll talk about the traits. That's a second. Yeah. Third one is behavioral leadership. Okay, it's a good idea that you have a traits. Okay, you can play basketball well. You have a potential energy, as we all are engineer here, and it has not converted to kinetic energy. That means it's a capacity, but it's not been demonstrated. Okay, so that means behavior is important. So that's how the leadership theory moved towards behavior. You need to have the behavior rather than having possessive of having a trait is not sufficient enough. Situation leadership. Okay, as we always say, okay, once you don't brush the paint with the same everywhere, rather than the situation theory talks about based on situation, you have to get a cap and apply the cap on those situations to solve problem. That's where the situation theory comes in. That means you have to morph. And I always say, okay, you need to be one of the best Hollywood actor to act based on the roles that you have to play. Transactional theory. This theory was brought in probably around, I will say 70s, when the managerial grid comes in. That means management has a style and demonstration of management style need to give you an output and result. Either it's a people task based or it's a relationship based. Okay, we'll look on this matter a little bit more detail. Transformational leadership. Okay, this theory talks about inspiration. As we always say, you can put carrot and stick, and people were limited to the wall that they're going to push. But a sky is not of a limit when you inspire them. So that's where the transformation theory leadership comes in. Last two, authentic leadership. Okay, being genuine and reflection of you being genuine in everything, every aspect of your demeanor and your traits is most important things, and you need to be engulfed around it. That's called authentic leadership. And finally, the complexity leadership. We are now in the world where things are changing very fast. Ever-changing world required you to be adaptive, be think about what's happening around you, and think about you still need to have a managerial aspect or hierarchical and understand the organization structure, but you need to be flexible enough to move with the pace of changing world. That's called complexity leadership theory. So as I mentioned, okay, I'm not here to go through and deep down on those theories. My intent is to we need to go and briefly go through it, understand 5 aspects of theories that will build our fundamental. Number 1 is when this theory started. Second is where the leadership source of power come for this theory. Third, what are the characteristics of leadership when he uses that theory? Okay. And the theory itself will have a strength and weakness. That's how the leadership theory has been keep evolving, as all the principles and theories does in the science. So on the great men theory, originated from studying behavior of military figures and people in authority around 1800. Okay, think about horsemen, think about with the sword, think about that they have muscles, they have the macho man. Okay, and the historian Thomas Carlyle, 1840, had a major influence on this theory. So he, in general, they were looking in terms of why some men are prominent than other, and they collected the data. He said, great leaders are born, not made. So his assumption was, okay, certain people comes out of it and become a leader because they have ingrained or natural ability to be a leader. Okay. Leadership source of power are referent from charisma or capacity to be a magnetic personality. So you attract people around you to solve problem or achieve goals. Okay. Leadership characteristics, charisma is one, your self-confidence, okay, your intelligence and sociability are important because you need to work with people. Okay. The strength of this theory started the scholarship of which traits and characteristics build great leaders. The weakness lacks scientific validity and only consider people in power. Great leader may be shaped by their society, and not the other way around is the argument. And second, and the third and last one, your only exception taking 50% of gender could not be a leadership role. That's not true. So that's the weakness of this theory. With this, I'm going to pose a second question. Okay, I would ask all the participants in your book or whatever near you, write the 7 values of life that is dear to you. Okay, and I will explain what is the value of life means here. Okay, family is the value of life. Your own health is a value of life. Your wealth could be value of life. Okay, your professional integrity could be a value of life. Okay, so you get idea. Okay, if you have a pen or pencil, or if you have a computer, if you have a cell phone, take a note for yourself and write down 7 values of life that's important to you. Okay, as we embark the journey more from the first station to second station, we'll be talking about those values and how we think on those values. The second theory, as we talked about the first theory, its shortcoming, that it only talk about great men, its referent power was charisma. Okay, and some people or some men are coming out in front, and that's why they consider to be a leader. Yeah. Later on, it was realized that okay, they possess a certain traits. That's why they are leader. Being a man or being stepping forward doesn't mean that they all are leader. They need to have, they have something must be in common in them. So that's where the trait leadership theory comes in. Okay. Assume the people inherent certain qualities and traits that make them better suited to leadership. Okay. Often identify a particular personality or behavior characteristics shared by leader. So that was assumption. With this, leadership source of power comes in because of leader possess certain traits and are driving force for the leadership. Yeah. Leadership characteristics, based on this theory, you need to have intelligence, you need to have integrity, you need to have a confidence, you need to have sociability similar to past, okay, and determination of the big 5 personality factor. What is big 5? We'll learn a little bit later, but to give an idea that okay, there are 5 big traits that were considered to be in every human, and their score define you how you are will behave in certain situation. Okay. The strength of this theory approach is intuitive and understandable rather than just based on observation. Okay. Has over a century of supporting research was done to collect the common traits of leaders and try to make sense out of it. Weakness does not explain why the others with the similar traits are not leader. Same thing, the second weakness, traits are often poor predictor of behavior. You can possess a trait. For example, you could have a skill to do an awesome batting, but when you go on the crease, you don't demonstrate. That means having a skill and not demonstrating is not the performance outcome. So we cannot define just being having a certain skill or trait. You will be able to demonstrate on the time when needed. Yeah. Third theory, remember we came from allowing people or men to come out and come in front and take a charge. Then we start thinking about what are the traits on all those men or people who are coming and standing in front and taking a charge. What are the common traits they have? Now we're talking about, okay, trait may have, but they're not behaving. So now it's a behavior leadership theory, first described by Katz and Kahn in 1951, later Likert 1961 and Blake 1964 took the idea of 1939 from Levin, based upon the belief that great leaders are made, not born. So it's a quite demarcation from the past concept that you need to have a natural tendency to come and out and lead. Rather than here, we start picking up the process could make people having the traits and you could be a leader. Yeah. People can learn to become leaders through teaching and observation called conditioning. There are two types of conditioning. Okay. Operant conditioning and the first is default conditioning. So default conditioning, or what we are calling here, is basically you have a certain tendency. For example, your stimuli, think about your pet cat and dog. As soon as you bring the food near to them, the saliva start coming in their mouth. That means your stimuli get activated based on seeing a certain activity or actions or behavior. So similar to a human being, okay, their natural tendency creates a behavior based on their posturing. Okay, I can give you relation of based on my own personality. I am an extrovert and a driver in nature. So in that case, when I go and sit on a chair, I have a tendency to lean towards the table like this. That create that I need to own. That's my project. And that was a problematic to me. We'll talk more why it become problematic to me when I move on the ladder and become project director rather than project manager. So that fundamentally mentioned to us, all of has a natural demure and stimuli to activate some behavior in ourselves, but we can also learn to maintain and control our own behavior by creating an operant conditioning. Okay. Leadership source of power, actions of leader, not on mental qualities or internal state. Okay. Leadership characteristics, look not on the character of leader, but their behavior. Behavior categories are either it could be a task-based behavior, so you are in action mode, do mode, or it could be relationship behavior. That means you are interacting with people. Okay. The strength of this theory, my apology. Okay, I'm going to go back. The strength of this theory, okay, action, not trait based. Okay, you need to demonstrate. It has a strong research similar to trait theory. Weakness, not linked to desirable work outcomes and universally successful behavior identified. Okay. Team manager may not be the best claim. When you working with team, okay, doesn't mean that okay the behavior is giving you the outcome, because you are only talking about team having a certain behavior. For example, if my behavior is I'm in jolly mode, then I'm going to go on the creech and start hitting sixes. Not necessary, even though I'm in jolly mode, okay, but I may have a poor performance. Yeah. Behavior leadership theory is the one theory that brought up style first in action. So there are 5 styles when you look on it. And if you look on this grid chart, concerned for people, concerned of production. That means if you are more concerned in terms of okay, people, then you're talking about, think about a country club management, because the purpose is to social gathering among people. So you care more about people rather than administrative nature of the management. Okay. On the contrary, if you are engaged in a production, that means you need to get certain productivity out, then you will be more concerned in terms of authority compliance management, so you can get the productivity out, which is 4 on the grid line. In order to achieve both in team environment where you have a people and people have feeling, emotions. At the same time, you get to output. You will approach team management, which is right balance between concern for people and concern for production. Situational theory of leadership. This was developed by Paul Harsey and Ken Blanchard. Ken is very renowned and he has done a lot for leadership. Focuses on leader's trait or behavior in relation to situational factor. A leader effectiveness is contingent on his ability to modify his behavior to the level of his follower maturity and sophistication. Think about a soccer team. A soccer team of boys around 12 to 15-year age, you may be a little bit more assertive. On the soccer team of girls, you may have required more EQ level to engage with them. Similarly, a soccer team of 20 years old boys, you need to have a little bit more assertiveness and create rules because they try to test different aspects. So that means based on situation, you need to change your hat, how you need to demonstrate and be in a role mode for your followers as a leader, okay, to get the result. Okay. So leadership source of power, ability to effectively change style and behavior according to situation to achieve vision or goal become important. Leadership characteristics, flexibility, directing, coaching, participating, integrity, and courage becomes the characteristics. Clear vision, humility, delegating, changes according to situation are also required. We'll see demonstration in the next slide how those things are important and what situation. The strength of this theory, easy to apply due to its simplicity. Once you take a role of which Hollywood actor you are you action actor? Are you emotional actor? Or are you somebody who is a weirdo? I will say John Nash, mathematician. Then you need to be in that role to play that role. So we'll see how that role acts. Clear style available for leader to those based on maturity and competence of the group become important. Weakness does not address how to apply in various changing culture. So for example, if we go back and try to assert a same situational for I will call a wedding food meal day in a Pakistani culture versus North American culture, you will see a different behavior. That means one's culture doesn't fit all. You need to understand situation, but the situational theory doesn't give you answer on culture. You need to adapt more there. Does not define who to rate leader maturity for the job. Is it because of the environment? Is it because of the trait? Is it because of the behavior? How the outcome comes in, because it doesn't define a situation may directly relate to the performance and outcome. Can divert focus from long-term objective to short-term objective. That's a challenge with situational leadership also. So let's look what we said about situational. As I say, first time on the behavior leadership, style of leadership was discussed. This is the little bit more better version where you're talking about leadership style. So let's suppose you bring in your organization a new grad. What is the competency and commitment level? The guy want to learn. That means he has a high commitment and he has a low competency because he is fresh out of the school. That means you will be using directing. You have to tell him what to do. Okay. Then after a while, 3-4 years, okay, now he is in D2 range. That means he has somewhat competency, okay, low competency, but he has, okay, low to some competency, and also he has a commitment which is low. Means he is now thinking about you always telling him what to do. So he is down now. Earlier his commitment was high. Okay, he's been directed. So on that case, you take a little bit back seat. You start coaching him. You want to inspire him rather than direct him. D3. In this mode, now the individual knows something. He has learned something. So he has moderate to high competency level, and he is variable in his commitment. Sometimes he goes and have a high commitment, which interests him, and sometimes he goes low. Then you become supportive. Your intent is whenever he needs support, you start supporting. So failure or mistake should not discourage him. Rather than failure is a path to success because he's learning. He ought to make fail. He ought to make mistakes. The idea is that's a lesson learned for him. So he can start building his tools in his leadership and get a confidence. D4, high competency, high commitment. Now he is at stage, he can work independent. That means you become in delegation mode. You start passing the work to him, let him take care. That's where it starts sharpening his leadership style. With this situation leadership, I'm going to create a situation. Okay. Before we start talking about transactional leadership, we talked about 7 values of life. Since we have learned at least 3 leadership theory, my request to you will be, we have a situation and you have been asked that you will be crossing a river and the boat will take you other side of the river, and there is an NEDian function, we all love to go there, and we have been asked to drop one of our values of life that we think it's a value of life. So cross it out 1 out of 7. Okay. Now we're going to also talk about here the transactional leadership theory and see how it works. First described by Max Weber in 1947 and then by Bernard Bass in 1981. Focuses on supervision, organization, and performance. Leaders promotes compliance by follower through both contingent rewards and management by exception punishment. Very famous, carrot and stick. So this management style transaction means you have to gain something to get something. Managers looking for, if you do something, I will give you carrot. If you don't deliver, then I will give you punishment or stick. Okay. Leadership source of power, position or rank in an organization. Now you are following individual or leader because he has a position. He will make a decision for how you're doing. You will get a reward or you will get a punishment. Leadership characteristics, passive directive, reward performance, and be practical. Change resistance, certainly this type of leadership doesn't require to break the status quo. They want that whatever the status quo, keep that status quo. It's extrinsic motivational, not intrinsic from the individual. And it's hierarchical. That means the decision is made in terms of hierarchy. Okay. The strength of this theory is a popular among managers as it achieves short-term goal. Okay. You can push people, you can push towards the wall, they may be able to deliver it because they think the threatening of your position required result to be delivered. No dispute as to who is in charge because the line of action and line of authority is very clear. Okay. Clear line of authority from the leader to the follower. Okay. Weakness emphasizes the importance of monetary reward, ignore the rest of Maslow hierarchy. People require recognition, people require inspiration, all those things has been ignored here. Does not achieve long-term goal. Ultimately, he will decide that, okay, if this is not a conducive environment, he will take a door and he will go out, find a job somewhere else because ultimately he is only an employee for you. There's no relationship between you and him for inspiring him. He doesn't see a value. He's only doing a day in, day out job. Transactional leadership theory, management style explain, contingent reward system, positive, reinforce appropriate behavior. Negative, reinforce inappropriate behavior. Highly ineffective, as we said, because people doesn't believe, they're only doing because they have been asked to do it, no option. Management by exception, there are 2. Either you are active or passive. If you're active, you control everything, you monitor, you have a data, and you make reward and punishment based on data. Passive means you allow them to do it, and you look in terms of where the challenge, you interact and solve the challenge by reward and or a punishment or carrot stick. So now we have completed transactional theory. I know that, okay, so far I am trying to go theory, but as I'm trying to go just to make sure, okay, we have a foundation. So I'm going to repeat here 2 things, and then I will move ahead. So far, we thought that, okay, leaders are born. we thought that leaders have certain traits. We thought that leaders could be made through a process. We thought about leaders need to have a multiple hat or cap. Yeah. We thought about leaders can direct to get an output by punishment and reward. Okay. So far that we have learned through theory. This transformation theory talks about that leadership is not only about management, rather it's about inspire and motivate. As we talked about, when you push people for reward or punishment, okay, then they go and the best they could, you can push them to the wall. But when you inspire them and create feathers on them, they can fly, and the sky is not even the limit. So that's what this theory about. You want to motivate, inspire people from within, so they can do whatever they can go for their capacity. Leadership characteristics: 4, idealize influence. So you influence them based on what they see ideal and value. You inspire them from within. You individualize, you consider their individualized consideration, what brings value to them. You stimulate their intellect, become creative. Okay. 5, sometimes they use 5 where they break down inspirational motivation to attributes and behavior, as we understood earlier, that attributes is a traits and behavior is demonstration of the traits. Okay. Strength, often the high ethical and moral standards. That's a strength because now you're inspiring. You have a moral high value. You want to build relationship. You want to inspire people. Can turn from low moral, accomplish goals by unified people. You can motivate just by hugging somebody and giving a gesture. They feel warm and they inspired. Electric shock or energy comes in for them to do things for you. Weakness, visionary can lack specification and action goals. You can be visionary, dream, I have a dream, I can change this. Okay. But dream is a dream. How to get there is a concern. Could overemphasize need of a single contributing member versus the group. Okay. So these are the weakness of this theory. Big traits or big 5 that I mentioned, just to get an idea on the transformation leadership, the score of that big 5 traits are important. We'll talk about a little bit on those big 5 when we go down to the components of leadership. Neurotism, that means how expressive you have in your idea or how you channelize your expression. Yeah. Extravagant or introvert, that means you are sociable, you like to be charged with the people, or you are charged in isolation. I always call, okay, are you a electric car or you IC engine? That means when you're running, you are charged, or you are not running, you're plugged in and you're getting charged. Okay. Openness. Okay. That means how open for you for new adventure. For example, if somebody tells you you're supposed to go for a meeting in next 1 hour, and by the way, guy said, okay, let's go to have a fun in a park. Is it create a stress in you, or are you always open for idea, adventure? So that's this concept, agreeableness and consciousness. We'll talk a little bit more, but what I want to demonstrate here is for the transformation leadership, there are enough data available which tells them on the big 5 what other scores are in the range of average. Okay. These 2 last leadership theories, authentic and also the complexity, are the most latest leadership. So with this, I'm going to take one more value of your life. As we mentioned about, we will all be survived the last 2 years of COVID. So we are at the border or bank of a river. The board is ready. I talked to the board guy and he has told me, tell Nazli, the president of NEDAC, that every member can go on the board, but since of COVID, we have demonstrated or found out, everybody has put 5 extra kg. My board cannot take them. So they need to drop one value, which is cost them 5 kg. So please cross out one more value of your life. Okay. So you should be left with 5 now. Okay. Authentic leadership. Authentic leaders elements concept by Warren Bennis came in 1989. Bill George in 2003 published a book called True North. You can read the book, very interesting book. Okay. Assume that authenticity within the corporate culture began as a theory in 1960. That means most important thing in you is yourself and being authentic to yourself. And that charisma is big enough that it engulfs everybody around you. If we recall the great example of Mr. Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who used to speak English, and the peasant in Pakistan, they don't even used to understand what he's talking. But when the BBC author or the commentator asked them, or newsman asked them, okay, what this guy is talking, one of the peasants said, I don't know. Certainly in his own language, he said, okay, Sadaki malum. Okay, so that means he said, okay, I don't know what he's saying. Then he said, do you trust him what he said? He said, I trust every single word that he said. That means when you are authentic, people start having blindly faith on you when they start testing you and seeing that you are authentic on yourself. So that's the concept of this theory. Leadership characteristics: be self-aware and self-manage yourself. Okay, be genuine, result-oriented, task-driven. A lot of people could be genuine and keep sitting on a bed or charpai in our language, but they don't even do any actions to get the result. As we said, we may have one of the best player. Okay, he may have a batting style, but when he go on the pitch, he never score. He is authentic. Okay, but his authenticity is not giving me result. So authenticity must need to give result and trust driven. And also, while you're doing it, you need to focus and empathy. Reason is you are dealing with people. Leadership is all about people. So right balance between getting result, being authentic, and having empathy is important. Strength: more available to maintain trust and cohesion among the group because they start believing. Ability to build positive and rewarding relationship tends to guarantee the ethical and moral standards are high. Weakness: ambiguity around a specific context. For example, leadership moral compass. Who hold the compass? Who will call you authentic? Leadership style can take years to develop. It's not easy to be authentic to yourself. We all behave in a certain way in situation and try to say it's okay to me behave that way. Okay. Theory, certainly this is the most recent theory, so this is still in its infancy. More data need to be collected, so more elements can be built around it. Last, not the least theory, complicity theory. With the complicity theory, I want to create an event. Okay, and this event for group 2. Okay, that means where our last name start with N and close with Z. Okay, I'm going to create an event and I will ask you keep looking for your answer while I will change the event. So the event that I have, since I'm going to use the last name from N to all the way Z, so I will probably anchor towards Sharif Saab, okay, and then move along the event. So think about Sharif Saab is traveling because certainly he's in BD, he's keep traveling. He is in Heathrow Airport now. Probably a 1 hour flight. We have in Western Europe country. Okay, he has a very close friend of his childhood. He has been raised with that friend, and that close friend, he has a 1 hour flight to catch, and he is going to make a deal somewhere in Middle East for a 5 billion. He's in his 20s, and this event will embark him for a very high level in the organization. Okay, so I'm going to repeat: 5 billion deal, 1 hour, your longevity of stay and transit. Okay, you have a half hour for boarding, so that means you have extra half hour. You get a call or text. You get a text on your cell phone, and the cell phone says, very beloved friend, his mother has only 2 hours to survive. You have 1 hour flight away, and you have a half hour extra. One question, okay, what action you will do? Once you receive a text, you will text him back and you will do your high level empathy. 2, okay, you will call him back. Reason is you have half hour. 3rd, okay, you will ignore going towards your 5 billion deal and text your second in command who is coming from Australia to go, and you take a flight. Fourth, okay, you will tell the friend that you have a 3-day session and you are busy on that business deal. You for sure will stop by after this, after talking to 1 hour. Okay, so pick up group 2, last name from N to all the way Z, which action you'll do. Okay. Now with this, we'll go towards complicity leadership theory. Grew out of system theory presented in 1960, Mary Alban and Ross Marion in 2007 presented a new paradigm of leadership using complexity science for knowledge era leadership. If you are aware of knowledge industrial era, knowledge era, we are in 4.0. That means we're talking about that if you go all the way from horsepower to steam engine to electricity, okay, and then finally towards industrialization revolution, we are in now knowledge era, which is data. Okay, so the beauty of data is we have enough information with us, and we are moving so fast that it's ever-changing world. So in that case, the theory required you not only to understand the normal behavior of human, rather than behavior is changing based on situation. Okay, so that means our environment and sciences are combining. For example, doing a pipeline in Western Canada, I don't only need to understand that how the pipeline will be done, how much money I have, rather than I need to deal with the aboriginal emotion, the people of that resident. I need to understand the, I will call it tree hugger or naysayer. I will need to understand the government agencies, and I need to understand also the industry needs. That means I am dealing with complex problem. Okay, my brain is full of data. I need to solve it. So that's where the framework include 3 entangled leadership role. That means you still need to do the management. You still need to plan. You need to do the plan, act, do, and check. But at the same time, you need to be emergent. You need to be adaptive. You need to be flexible enough with the changing world. As we always say from engineering, your lambda value will be low. That means you have to change multiple times to understand how the world is changing. So what else the leader require other than changing an administrative? Remember, the change could come from anywhere. It's not a top-down approach now. The change comes from one of the unit which has a little bit more creative solution. That means you need to create a culture of enabling to accept change that come from anywhere and engulf the change to in the direction that it become part of the culture of your organization. That's why nowadays you see the organization give you keep org chart changing every time. New normal, new energy, okay, new transition, how to mix marriage between the Bay Area and the energy. All those things keep happening. Leadership characteristics: be interactive, be dynamic, learning, innovation, adaptability. There's a very strong statement we all say: learned, unlearned, and relearn. That means whatever you have learned, not get the hostage of only learning. Unlearn what you have learned and then relearn new things. Otherwise, you will only be where you are now based on what you have learned. You will never go from here to where you want to go if you don't unlearn and relearn new things. Okay. Strength provides leadership solution for knowledge era rather than industrial era. Offers broad solution which is embedded complexity science. Look into leader brain instead only behavior. Constant weakness changes, constant change may become frustrating and lose the follower. Theory is still in infancy. With this, we concluded all the theory of leadership. Okay, and we're going to move towards component. Since I'm giving you components now, so I'm going to ask you, okay, this time the guy said the draft of the river is very high. So it's a low draft. Sorry, the draft of the river is very low. So we don't have enough water. The board is going to sink. You have to drop again your extra 5 kg that you get in COVID. So cross out one more values of your life. So you should be left with 4 now. Okay. Now we are going to talk about the leadership components. So when we look on this picture, we look towards a shadow man, and shadow man is doing a lot of things in his brain. So that means he's trying to learn the alphabet. This is the infancy mode. That means your child, your hard drive is formatted, and you're trying to learn the ABC of leadership. This one I will try to go fast just to capture the time that been lost here. Leadership traits, nature ingrained. That means temperament. That means when you are born, okay. Environment around you, even your father or mother, okay. How they behave, you are a hard drive which is just formatted. Till 4 years, you're going to keep downloading the data. So the environment that you create around you, actually the child's download this, and that becomes a new temperament for the child. We always used to call the blueprint exist, but house is made by the environment. So now that means this is nature, not the nurture. Difficult to learn and difficult to unlearn. It becomes ingrained in you. So big five is the one, your initial original trait of big five. As remember, I mentioned you big five, it's called also ocean, means openness, how much adventurous you are. You will see a kid on the BB bed, and he may be expressive, other kid may be very lull. That means they have their own openness style. Some may be shy to go on the slide, some may not be shy. That means they are they are behaving with the group of people, and they go mingle with everybody, or they tends to be with the mom and dad. It's extravagant or extrovert versus introvert. So same thing, agreeableness and neurotic. When we mention about it, that means how channelize you can do your energy. I'm not going to go on this slide, rather than just give an idea. High and low doesn't mean it's bad and good. High and low means based on your score on this 5 big traits: openness, consciousness, extravagant, agreeable, and neuroticism. That's your fundamental primary mode. That means you can acquire others and play the role, but if you are just waking up, you have a default mode and default score on those areas. Leadership attributes, nurtured, learned as a part of external experience. That means now you are more than 4 years and you start thinking about world around you. You start conceiving ideas. You want to be one of the best specimens, and you look towards Miadad and said how I need to play my cards. You start getting confidence. Okay, you have a demo that you, whenever somebody asks you do things, you show that you are passionate about it. There are certain people who shows less energy and more calmer. That's where it comes in your nurture, based on what environment you are living in, how environment is actually giving you an experience. So that's attributes. Some examples of attribute: trustworthy, positive, confidence, intelligent, win-win. Other thing is social, non-explicit, dictatorial, egocentric, loner. All these could be your attributes based on how environments brought up has impacted you. Third aspect components of leadership is skill. The difference between the attribute and skill is skill can be acquired anytime. Think about, I said you are, but the challenge here is if you don't practice, you will lose it. That means, okay, if you are one of the good batsmen, but you start practicing it, then your swing will not be the same swing. You could become boom boom shahid afridi, but every time you go and get clean ball because you're not practicing. You're not synchronized with your own thinking process. So ability, knowledge, and practice create skill. Okay. So combine all those things. Let's use a term called a skill. That means trait, attribute, skill. We'll call it skill. So remember, I said, okay, potential energy is good for nothing. If you have it, it's there. But if you don't demonstrate, then it doesn't come out from you. So skill plus behavior, when you start using that skill in your behavior, that's called competency. Clear? Okay, so now since I gave you competency concept, I'm going to ask you that the guy told me everybody is on the other side of the bank of river, but there's a challenge. Okay, the guys has asked that you can only go when you drop one value, because the room is not big enough to keep your 4 buckets at the same time. So cross one more value of your life that is important to you. So leadership competency. So how does leadership competency comes in your leadership demonstration of your leadership style? So when there are 3 modes of leadership. Leading self. First, you have to lead for yourself. If you don't lead yourself, then you will not be able to move towards the leading others. Okay. So in order for leading self, the competency requirements are self-awareness, self-management, communication, your interpersonal skill, courage, resilience, and flexibility. Okay. I only want to touch 1 or 2 here, then I will move on, because the idea here is to what of the leadership, not the how. Okay. So self-awareness means if you are aware that you are by definition an introvert and you are going to go for a presentation, you need to acquire a mode of that today for 8 hours, you will be an extrovert. You will speak your heart, what you learn. That means you are aware of yourself and you're demonstrating based on the need of what is the need for that awareness and how to demonstrate it. Okay. Same thing. If you are introvert and if we are meeting and you are a PM, you need to be vocal. So you need to be aware that you need to take a charge because you are a PM of that project. I'm going to avoid detail of that competencies. If needed, if we have enough time, we'll come back to it. Leadership competencies are normally measured on a tools. Okay, and tools are, there are multiple tools. You can do a bar. There's average data available, and when they do the 360, then they look on the data that how the overall group doing, how you're doing individually based on the group, and then the value comes towards you and it gives you an area of improvement, which area you need to focus and how you need to improve on it. So they are just to demonstrate you, either you get the circular chart or you get the bar chart. The idea is to give you rating compared to the groups or to the statistical data in the industry. We're going to go back to the group 2 event, okay, where we talk about the Sharif Saab that he was on hetero. This time I'm going to change situation. This is actually Sharif Saab's cousin, not his very close friend. Okay, and he certainly was brought up, and his aunt is this in this situation, and he's thinking about that aunt is very close to his mother. So now what action he will do? Number 1, he will send a condolence on the email or text. 2, he will give a call because since he has a half an hour and tell the situation. 3rd, he will take a flight directly and tell his second in command that you go and take care of the meeting. Or he will tell, okay, that he will go attend the meeting. He will come after 3 days and attend and be there with them, stand by the family. Okay, we're going to move on. Some of the leadership style, we talked about some during the situational leadership. We talked some during the transactional leadership. We talked some during the behavioral leadership. So these are the 6 of them that I'm demonstrating just to show you. Important of this slide is look on the negative and positive on the last row. So you will find out there are 2 leadership style at least here which are negative, which is called dissonant, not resonant. Resonant means you synchronize with people. Dissonant means you go and try to break the status quo. So they are not bad. Negative means in a crisis mode, you may have to take a style that's prudent. For example, when a war happening, you may have to take a commanding role. Okay, that's why Churchill was popular, because after when the war was over, they used to call Churchill was a war leader, not a peace leader. So the commanding role works based on leadership when a crisis mode happens. Leadership responsibility. I kept this slide blank. And the reason I kept this slide blank, reason is I'm going to parse a statement and we need to put in our brain this statement. Okay. Leadership, leaders are seen through the mirror of their people, not with their own eyes. So that means whatever your responsibility is, expectation that the group or team has created for you, or you have perceivably created with them. So remember is whatever the expectation created, you have to fulfill the promise. Okay. Remember, we talk about definition of leadership. Okay. So admin, I'm not going to ask you, rather than based on time, I will directly go and take the curtain out. Simple definition of leadership. A spinning fidget. By the way, this was done by my 8th grader daughter. When I was writing and thinking about how to simplify, she gave me that idea and I like it. So she said, Daddy, leaders actually is a linking pin where the group of people by means they together achieve the goal. And I really liked it. It's most simple. That means leader provide a joint or link, become a linking pin between the group of people using means they together achieve the goal. This session, we're going to start from here, our leadership journey. Okay. And when we look on the behavior of this individual, he is going somewhere, he's focused, he's walking, there's no panic mode. That means he want to simulate and learn and try to be a leader and try to be a recipe for which suits him. So the most important thing in leadership is don't emulate anyone. Try to simulate your own, and ultimately it becomes your own normal natural tendency.
Suleman, sorry, quick time check. It's 12:10 and we have 20 minutes to go. So
okay, thank you, appreciate it. Okay, individual development for model, social style and experience and competency together give you penetration to all the way diversification. Okay, so here we have looked on the competency. My focus here to just touch a little bit on social style. Social style are 4. There are multiple ways to look on social style: analytical, driving, amiable, and expressive. It's about assertiveness and responsiveness. We all has 2 primary by default social style. So I'm going to avoid details just to give 1 or 2. So if you are analytical, you are low in assertiveness and low in responsiveness, and you demonstrate at emotions, at work, and as a friend certain strength and weakness by default. Okay, knowing that strength and weakness, when you know what role you have to play, you will be able to improve your outcome as a leader. Okay, so based on time, I am not going to look on these, rather than these slides will be available, okay, for you to look and understand where you belong to. It's about locating yourself, what are your strength and weakness, and which weakness or strength you need to work on to have a better leadership for yourself. This is driver, okay, and this one is expressive. So there are 4 quadrant and 4 styles of social style that you demonstrate as default, and everybody has by default 2. So this is example when we did assessment last time, and this individual has a primary style of being analytical and expressive. That means he is good in selling and expressing. At the same time, he thinks time to understand why he's choosing what he's choosing. Second one is analytical and driver. Okay, that means this individuals make his decision to analyze the data, and based on data, then he make decisions. Good to great leadership. Good to great leadership. There are 2 models I will present, and I will try to be as brief as possible, because at this moment you will be able to look on it and you will be able to demonstrate on this journey that how to where you are and how to improve yourself. One is the John C. Maxwell, which tells you are leader because you have position and people have to follow you because of your title. Second is a permission. That means they want to follow you. That's why they have given permission to follow you because of your relationship that you have. Third is a production, because in a company you create an outcome and everybody want to be attached with you because you are result oriented. Fourth is a people development. That means you invest on them. That's why they want to attach you and consider you a leader. The last, which is pinnacle, people want you to follow because they respect you who you are. That's the highest level of leadership. When you attain that leadership, that means you are at the highest level of leadership. Okay, so most of the leaders are great leaders has been followed even they don't exist here, because their charisma and their leadership style was at the 5th level. We cannot be always at the level number 5, but we need to maximize our 80-20, that 80% we should be on 4 or 5 at least. This is the diamond model of leadership, which tells you that, okay, if when we're talking to CEO, then we need to talk strategical. We cannot talk tactical because he's a grade 5 level of understanding. He will not understand technical detail. When we're talking to the people who are the real worker, then we need to talk tactical detail. Otherwise, they will be disconnect. They will say, this guy is talking gibberish, high level, doesn't know how to do it. Okay. When we are in the family or with the people, then we need to add service. Okay. We need to demonstrate and have a high empathy for them. And the last, not the least, okay, when you are in the meeting and you are getting a task which you are accountable in charge, speak up, be courageous, otherwise you will be accountable for it. So the dot means your quadrant, how encapsulated you do, that's for room for greatness, how you balance between all together based on situation. So these are 2 models of being from good to great leadership. These 2 items, which is manifesto and the last one, leadership plan, I will talk, okay, before we talk about the problem solving. It's a moral compass. That means everybody as a leader, please ink your moral compass. Okay. Leadership manifesto is about your belief, your motives, your goal, and expectation. List down yourself. As an example, I'm showing you my own manifesto, which I wrote down probably 2014. I have been following since then. Whenever I move away from it, it gives me an anchor point for myself. Okay, so if you look here, I believe leadership is like respect is earned. You don't take it as granted. Leader must possess character, honesty, and integrity. If you don't have a character, you become from day 1 leader or hero to 0, because it's an umbrella which lifts you. Okay, we can go down as an example. You can have this available for yourself, but the idea is it has to come from your heart. It has to be written down. It has to be with you. Whenever you're seeing that you are not able to do it, you need to look towards it. It will bring back to your direction for moral compass for leadership. So I do follow this time to time when I see that I'm deviating from it. See, we do get model. It's thank for Samurai. They have given me this cognitive analysis, how to plan for your leadership affirmative action, how to add what you don't have it, or how to suppress which is excessive on you and creating a nuisance on another. So CB2 get model tells you that whatever get you want to achieve, first you have to change your C. Okay, if we go back and if we're seeing that this is a barren land, then I will say I don't need to do anything. I'm just going to keep lazy. But if you see there's a lush green ground, then I will go and try to cultivate it or enjoy it or walk on it. Okay, so CB, do, and get model tell you that whatever you want to get, first change your C. Then write down what your behavior will be to achieve the belief of C, and then write down your action. Ultimately, you will going to get out of it. So as an example, I am showing you what I have put in around 2014 for myself when the market was really tough. First example was, okay, I said growth is still possible with high performance and repeatable business, because you have a trust with the customer. And if you go and look on their problem, and they will be able to give you business. Okay, so we demonstrated, and we at that moment we received 20% extra business just because we change our C. Otherwise, everybody, oil patch down, everything is down. It was hard to achieve. Okay. Last, not the least, problem and solution. Leaders are engaged in problem and solution. Okay. With this, before I go, I want you to take your 2 more lifeline away. You should be left with 1. Okay. So strike out 2, and you should be only 1 left with you for your lifeline. In simple, there are 4 types of problem: simple, complicated, complex, and chaotic. Simple means you have a line of sight between the problem and the cause of the problem. So once you know the cause, eliminating the cause, you should be able to get the result. Complicated means multiple causes are there. So you can use Ishikawa or fishbone to analyze it, but you have to do analysis before you come to a decision. Okay. So these two could be solved. The last two, complex and chaotic, are most of the leadership problem. That means you don't know the cause, they are unknown, or they're too frenzy. So leadership are mostly engaged in complex and chaotic problem, and they are progressively elaborated. So that's where you need to understand how to solve leadership problem. I will demonstrate to you the roller coaster model of the problem solution for leadership. Number one, leader must need to have a vision, what problem he's solving, and bought in the solution with the team. Once they become believer, it becomes their story. They will be creative to give you more ideas. Once you define it, okay, then you will see that you're still struggling to understand the problem. Your energy level go down. It's like a roller coaster. You're going downhill. Most important job for leader at that moment is to ensure nobody quits or come out of the roller coaster. Otherwise, accident, disaster. Till you find out you are at the bottom of the problem and you have understood the problem, that's where you need maximum energy, and you start ramping up and putting more motivation in your team. And finally, when you go uphill, you need high energy. You need energy to drive and accelerate your to the direction of solution. That's called roller coaster solution of problem for complex, complicated. With this, I will be asking Sharif Saab the same event. Okay. By the way, I am very regretful to say that's your own mother. Okay. Are you going to take the flight, which is 1 hour, and tell your 2IC to go? Are you going to send the condolence on an email? Are you going to go to the event or solve the 4 billion deal? And then after 3 days, you're going to join your mother. Okay. So I'm going to ask Sharif first you to unmute, and I will ask for what was your first decision and how you have changed your decision.
Well, Nasim, my first decision was number 2, because it was a friend and his mother was was sick. My third decision is that I will send my other colleague who's coming from Australia for the negotiation. I will immediately go to my mother. And the reason for this is that, in our company, in our culture, where I work for Siemens, the culture is that, and it's been repeatedly said, family first, family first. So they always accommodate you. You have to take care of your family first. And of course, the mother is the most closest thing and dearest thing to you. So you have to take the flight to go to your mother and make other arrangements for the other guy to go and handle the deal.
Thank you, Sharif Saab. Most important thing is based on the data available to you and the value of the data, you are making decision. So leadership makes decision based on the condition and the data available to them. And certainly these are not easy decisions, they are tough decisions. So most important thing is start practicing to make a decision based on what values to you. That's why, Nazli, I'm going to ask you to unmute. I will ask you if you can share with the team that what is the one value that you're left with.
Honesty.
Okay, so that means everything that you do, that should be your prime important. That means your moral compass should be that any decision that you do, you need to look, okay, are you honest to yourself, or you will be expected and seen by people that you are honest. Okay, so we all need to understand that what is the value to us in our life, that should be prime, and we need to create our leadership around it. And same thing, we should not hesitate to make decision. Leadership is all about making tough decisions. So I wanted to ensure that with this exercise, we understand the value inherent to us as a prime, which is to us, not to others. It need to be intrinsic. The second thing is, don't wait or don't be afraid to make decision. Leadership is about making decisions. Okay. With this, I can conclude. And if any question, Khalid, Kashan, and Shahid, I'm ready to take it. Otherwise, I'm good. I can hand over.
Thank you very much, Nasim. This was excellent. Yeah, we have couple of questions and some comments. One question, let me just pull up. the first one. Yeah, this is from Sharik Siddiqui, and it's the question is how a leader should behave if his team is divided into factions to fulfill a task. So conflict resolution.
So if we go back to our competency, if you look here that we have, I'm going back here to the competency chart so we can answer, and I will try to brief here. Yeah. So these were the 4 or 5, 3 level of leadership we talked, and their competency. One of the competency, if you look here, it's called conflict resolution. So I can tell you my personal events example. I was dealing, this is 2000, probably I was at 12, 2 stalwart, very smart people in heavy oil. Okay, and both were adamant. Okay, and they had their belief and values. Okay, and but they cannot. It's like oil and water. They cannot work together. So I asked them to join me and have a dinner with me. Okay, and please don't do it what I did, but I will share with you. So both were with me on a table, and I put my credit card, certainly corporate credit card, not my personal. I said, guys, we're going to be here and we're going to keep enjoying, and whatever you want, drink or meal, it's all onus on me. When we're going to come out, we want to make sure what is value, our common value. Okay, and certainly it was a bickering and fight started, but they all start after a while thinking about, okay, what is value to them? And we come to a conclusion that what is a common value to 3 of us? And we come to a point that, okay, if this is something common, at least we can work on the common thing. And we are not asking you to attach to something which you believe and I don't believe, but at least there are things common and we can work on together on a common things. So it's an art, not a science, but you need to understand that what is the value of that specific individual. And you need to connect those 2 individuals to understand what are their common values. That's how you do the conflict resolution.
Excellent. Just a comment from a participant is that, like, Quran Saab, like in other traits, leaders are born, not made. So do you think that people, is this leadership is a singular trait that people are born with, or you learn to become a leader? Quran Saab has raised his hands. Do you mind if we unmute and let him ask this question?
I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, let him unmute.
Yeah. Nazli, can you unmute? Quran
Yes,
Saab.
I asked him to unmute.
Oh,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, very much. I know that we were supposed to be asking the text, but it's a little bit interesting. Before asking this, my question is very, very simple, but there's a little bit of background to it. My question is that should everybody try to become a leader, or do you need a personality or making to be a leader? That's my question. And the reason is, first of all, Nasim, Suleman Sahab, I thank you very much for the great presentation. It was very, very well organized and looks like you are well versed in your subject. That's wonderful, and we learned a lot. And the reason is, as soon as I saw the topic of your presentation, many things came in my mind, And what I thought, that look at the example of bee, like the bee that makes honey. If every bee tries to be a queen, there will never be honey. Similarly, like if you go any organization, there are people who are working at different, like a level and different capacity. Not all of them are leaders. And then, of course, for running the affair of the organization, you need people to be, like at different level and doing different things. That's how you do. When it comes to us engineers, like you are an engineer as well, we are subject matter experts. And therefore, what I understand that the vision of engineers is very focused, very deep, whereas managers or leaders, if you look, there is very, very like a wide horizon or something like that. They look things at surface, they manage people, they manage things and everything, whereas engineers are a little different. They're very focused, they're subject matter experts and everything. So that's why I was thinking that whether we should be doing things that we are expert and we are good at, and therefore in that way we'll be utilizing our energy in our full capacity and we will excel in it. So of course, I mean, poets, like singers, I mean, they are born in 100 years or something like that. For even poets, I mean, they say that poetry is not, like putting words, in a rhyme or something like that. Poets are born, singers are born, historians are born, Similarly, leaders are born. They have the chemistry, they have the making to be a leader. Where in engineers, I mean, they are, good in different trades or something like that. So that's why my question. Sorry for.
Okay, good questions. And as you probably have said very clearly that, okay, I have spent quite a bit of time on these subjects, right? And I'm not saying, okay, I have a collective wisdom, but I will express what I have learned. Yeah. Number one, we need to go to the simple definition of leadership. Leadership means if certain number of people stand behind you and following you for something, you are a leader. It doesn't matter that you are leader of being an engineer or a leader of being a father, good father, or a painter. You have a certain art. If you're excelling on that art, you are a leader. As far as people standing behind you, and I sometimes a joke, when you look behind, poof, everybody goes away. As they say, okay, kadam badao, and then poof, right? You don't want that. That means if people are standing behind you, you are a leader. Now, second part of the question that you say, in people leadership or organization leadership or country leadership, we have only talked about first leadership has a 3 level: leading self, leading others, leading organization. So leaders means you have somebody behind you standing it and always there, you are leader. That's first definition. Now second, okay, we all born with a certain 30%, I'm going to call, based on statistical data. Nowadays it's called psychological science. Okay, 30% your traits. That's why I talk about the traits and attributes. But remember, traits, attributes, and skill, both attributes and skills are nurture, not nature. Only trait was nature. That means there are inborn qualities you have. You may have a good vocal, okay, and that's why because of the good vocal, you have a less practice to do a singing. But for me, let's suppose if I want to be in singing, I may have to do 1,000 hours of single to create my vocal, or I may go and change my surgery to get to some vocal. But the idea here is process will improve your capability to demonstrate certain behavior and competency, which you could become a leader. Are you be the ultimate leader? Maybe you have to think. Now, the most important example, I will give it to you. Certainly it's a faith base, but I will demonstrate to you. Remember in our quadrant, we showed 4 quadrants. When I was doing first leadership course in 2000, it came in my head that's similar to what you were thinking. I said, why we have 4 Caliph Rashida? An answer came in my head. Oh, because there's only 4 quadrant, and anything you do more than 4, 16, 17, ultimately it drops down to 4 quadrant. Okay, so our greatest leader has already demonstrated every quadrant. Ali being analytical, okay, Othman being expressive, Abu Bakr being amiable, and Omar being driver. He has made common people to become highest level as a leader. So leadership not only means that what you have, you cannot acquire others, or you cannot surround with others to make collective wisdom. Leadership, it's all about dealing with people, working with people, using your strength. So that strength doesn't become nuisance, but it's balance. Same thing, using your weak area to get support from other to make decisions. Did I answer your question, Corinne?
Next, yeah, thank you. Next question is, from
Brother Halik, we should ask, I think for the sake of time, I am okay, but it's okay for people to be there because we're not holding anybody, we're just answering the question, right?
Yep. So I think we can go for last 2 questions.
Yes.
This next one is, what is the best way to deal with a leader who's less knowledgeable than yourself? And a similar question in this regard is that if your manager, hostile or angry. So how, if you are in an organization that you manage people, but then you have your manager is less knowledgeable and as well as hostile.
Okay, so there are two situations been asked here. Number one is, okay, if you have not learned, I'm going to use the terminology art and science. What I was presenting, science of leadership. Okay, the art of leadership is demonstration by understanding in situation what direction I have to morph. Okay, so art of leadership comes with practice. When you practice competencies, you become good at it. Now, so you will have to start your own journey. And remember, leadership is lifelong journey. I want to take a misconception out. Leadership is not about that you need to come out and say, I am a leader. As a father, you are a leader also. In the house, you are a leader. But consider you are not the boss. The boss is also always your, I will say, spouse or better half. Okay, you are only a leader. Okay, so never differentiate between boss and leader. Boss is boss. What I'm trying to put here is, okay, in every role, to the best of our capability, if we are able to connect people and we are able to achieve the desired result, we are at the best leadership role. Either as a father, okay, for my daughter, or as husband for my wife, okay, or other way, okay, or as a coach to my soccer team, okay, that's the right approach. So don't question, rather than leadership is about journey and keep improving your skill set and competency. Yeah. Now, the second part of the question, if you have a manager who is hostile against you, so remember, we are dealing with humans. Human comes with biases. So we, rather than thinking about why he's hostile, we have to think about what brings value to him or her. We need to start working on that value without being subordinate. And as soon as we start working on value, people see that they become comfortable on their own thick skin. At the same time, they see that you bring value, they will start being more lenient to you. Remember, when people start trusting you, they give you liberty. And the trust can only be achieved when you make them comfortable, as comfortable as if they were not there, you will take care for them. Did I answer the question, or is there any other angle you were looking for?
I think it answered. Last question, and it's a theme that when you are in a leadership role, you can have a conflicting situation where you would like to take the credit for something done by the team, so that you are the one who's getting the reward, or you present the achievement as part of the team. So how do you manage that conflict between your personal interest and of the team? Last question.
So the more modern concept of leadership tells, okay, leadership should not take the credit. The credit goes to the team. Okay, so that's why my normal practice is, whenever I go stand, I first thank for the team and said, I could not have a stand here on this podium today without the team delivering what they have done. So I owe to the team, and this is everything that represent our team. So if the day you isolate from we to I, you disconnect the team and you lose the respect.
Excellent. I think with this we could do the closing, Nasim.
Yes, Khaled. Thank you very much. Thank you, Nasim, for such an informative session. We need so much to digest from this. And I think, as we discussed earlier, that 1.5 hours is not enough for these kind of courses. Nasim is very generous to offer, if our membership is willing to participate in a day session or series of sessions to learn more about this leadership skills. So if any of you are interested, please email us, our PDC committee or any board member, let us know. So we can arrange it. I will ask Nasim journal membership also, because here we have roughly 35 people. I will ask membership also. If they are interested, then we can arrange something for them, because there is so much to learn from your knowledge, and I am sure people wants to learn.
Nazi, I want to
yeah,
clarify
sure.
one thing, if you're okay.
Sure.
Today, I have only touched what of leadership. I want to be very clear.
Yeah.
Okay. I have not touched how. Reason is the time, and I thought a lot about to cut down the slides and spend a little bit more time. But that was not good that I gave. Normally, I pass you a half-baked cake. The intent was to at least cover the what.
Yeah.
And I know it's quite a bit to absorb, but the idea was certainly there will be a recording, YouTube, you can go over, you can look on it and absorb the what. But remember, you will not be able to be competent if you don't practice the how. That's why the concept here was in the past, when we have done, normally we have done 1 or 1.5 day session, a lot of interactive session, assessment done, a lot of homeworks, and that's how we start mastering our leadership. Giving back to you, Nazli.
Yes, so I can just tell I attend couple of these leadership trainings. One was this Kanbalanche you mentioned for situational leadership skills. And that was a full day session just one day before this COVID happened. So 12th of March, 1920, I attended that. That was full day session just for one. Here we talk about 8 different type of leadership and so on. So I'm sure that will be very beneficial if we arrange a full day session, and I will keep you posted, Nasim, for that. And I think, Khalid, we are good to close the session.
Yeah, Nasim, before you go, a big thanks for you. You have really done a wonderful job. You see how I pick a jewel?
Yes,
Nazli?
definitely,
This is
definitely.
how we can share knowledge. So we
Yes.
always look for the NEDians. Among the NEDians, you can pick the jewels and bring them forward, and they can give different presentations.
Yes.
Nasim, thank you very much.
Thank you, Shaif Saab, for putting the name. And as we always say, okay, we are always available for NEDians and NED alumni veterans.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone, for attending.
Yeah, thanks everyone, and thank you, Nasim, for your time here and sharing your experiences with everyone. I would suggest on your behalf and from our side is also utilize LinkedIn for connections and build up the network there, and then look towards our communication from NEDAC on how to move this forward in terms of future engagements. And thanks everyone for joining. And Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.